Hold. There we go. I was unmuted. Now I'm muted. I hope you guys can hear me. So give me a thumbs up if you can. But I had my microphone on mute so it wouldn't catch anything. So hello, everyone. Happy Friday. It is Free Tip Friday. It's Friday, September 10th, and we are ready to go. So we've got our wonderful moderators on today. Of course, we've got our Gita all the way across the miles in Denmark, and we've got Janice over on YouTube. So we are all here today and ready to go. So I've got two things I'm going to share with you today. I've got a lot of stuff to cover, so I am going to get right to it. But of course, before I jump in, I want to make sure that everyone knows where to go and what to do. So of course, you can find us on all of our social media. We'd love to have you join us over on our Instagram, where Drea posts wonderful little tips and tidbits and kind of what I want to say, sneak peeks of things that are coming up. So you can join us there at beadshop.com. You can join us at the Bead Table, which is our wonderful Facebook group of over 6,000 beaders strong. We'd love to have you over there. And of course, you can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching live, thank you so much. And if you're watching at a later replay, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have all of you all here. But if you like and subscribe, then you will never ever miss one of our broadcasts. And of course, you can find everything that I'm using today over on beadshop.com for information on the project and the products from this broadcast. And of course, you can sign up for our newsletter for the latest discounts, giveaways, and new products. Now, speaking of our newsletter today, you guys, if you're a newsletter subscriber and you opened the newsletter up today, you saw that, and judging by everything, you guys have loved them as much as I do. We have some brand new pliers that just dropped, and I'm going to show you those pliers in just a second, along with the coupon that we put in today's September 10th newsletter. So I'm going to show you that in a second. First, though, we're going to go back to the Budapest Wrap. And some of you may remember this from not this past Wednesday, but the Wednesday before, when I started this wrap based on the Liz Taylor and Richard Burton sapphire that he gave her in Budapest. And we used the September mixed sapphire sparkle in it. And I've gotten a little further, not that much further, but I want to show you, I'm at a point where I want to share a couple of tips with you. Okay, so as always, it's a work in progress, but let me just make sure I can see all y'all. There's no real questions. Janice is on, Gita's on, so we're all good. All right, so let me go ahead and let's take a look at what I've got in front of me here. Okay, so let's take a look. I've got a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. Let's do that. And you remember from not this past Wednesday, but the Wednesday before, on the broadcast, we did this kind of small little sampler that had some different things on the 5 wrap. So here it is. And I ended with kind of this interesting A-dot seed bead and Baroque pearl kind of motif there. So I continued with that motif, and you can see, so the next section of the wrap is right here. And so I went, instead of with 4 pearls, I went with 6. So there's 6 A-dots, 6 pearls, and it's going back and forth here. And I think it's going to terminate here. I don't know, I might make one more segment, I'm not sure. But this is what I wanted to share with you, okay? Was when I finished up that flat macrame knot using all 3 of the Chinese knotting cords in the 0.4 millimeter. You can see I did the flat macrame with all this. And I stopped it, and then I started the next macrame section with the size 4.4 CKC. You can see that there. And you can also see that the section that's here, what I probably should have done had I thought about it, or I don't know, paying attention or whatever. When I started this flat macrame, this transition is a little awkward. It doesn't look very elevated, and it's certainly not something, pardon me, sorry about that, that Liz Taylor would want to wear, right? So I would go back and I would get my macrame here, tie it on, and then continue to macrame down so this little connection was covered. Can you see that right there? Okay. So now, since I started doing this section here, now I'm faced with, all right, what am I going to do there? So I thought about how simple it would be just to come in and kind of give it a little macrameing over the top here. So let me get this here. Right? Yeah, I have the book. I don't know if you guys, it was, I don't know, probably in the early 2000s or something. There was a book that was made of all of her jewelry collection. She wrote a book on all of her jewels and, you know, where they came from and all this stuff. It was really pretty cool. Well, I, of course, have it. I think it's packed away now. I need to kind of look in my big picture books, my big monoprint books and stuff to see. I know I have it because it's one of my faves. But yes, Ms. Taylor's jewels were some of my favorites. I'm cutting some CKC, okay, and I think actually this blue and this blue, I think they're too matchy-matchy. I want something with a little bit of contrast. So, and you can see it. You can, I mean, I see it. And if you get a little closer, you can see those edges are a little raggedy. It's not, as we like to say, as elevated as it could be, right? So I just want to share this tip that if you are moving along, you can always come back and add a little extra embellishing to your wraps, okay? So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to start a little further back here, and you're asking me how much I cut. I will tell you about 28 inches of cord, about 2 of the long lengths of the board. And I'm going to slide it behind my bracelet and get here in the center. And I'm going to start macrameing over that section. Oh, I've got so many cords here, so let me neaten that up just a touch. And we'll do that first one and flatten and down. So there we go. Can you see how I've added right here? And it's coming over. So now I'm just going to continue that flat macrame. If you're new to watching us and you're like, wait a minute, Kate, I don't know how to do this flat macrame stitch. We've got skill builders, and I also show it. Go ahead and watch. I think Gita and Janice both linked it in the chat. But if you go to beadshop.com and you go to the Budapest Wrap, the broadcast will be right there. And you can access it there, or you can just go right to our YouTube channel. So I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to embellish this with a few beads. And I can see, I want that to sit right. I get a little, I don't know, I guess I get a little fussy. And I want everything to sit correctly if I'm doing this fine work. Okay, so now here's this one. And remember how last Friday, I guess it was last Friday, gosh, time is just racing by, isn't it? It feels like it is anyway. Now I'm going to add some beads. So I'm going to go from the mix, and it's ones, I don't know, have I used them? I have used them, but I'm going to use them again. I'm going to grab 2 of those 8 cuts and 1 of the Baroque pearls. Okay, so almost like what we did, remember we did that kind of over-the-top macrame with Janice's, with those ostrich shells, with that wrap for the Adobe wrap. This is kind of inspired by that, right? I'm going to put this A-dot. So see how I'm coming up here? I'm just taking these strands, I'm bringing them through this A-dot bead. And see how that A-dot's just going to sit right on the top? Then I'm going to cross my strands again. Maybe I'll just do a macrame knot to tighten everything up. So I'll make a loop, bring that strand from the right under everything and up through that loop. I could just tie an overhand knot too on the bottom, but I'll do a macrame stitch. So there's one. Now I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to repeat it again, but I'm going to repeat it with the Miyuki Pearl. And I'll put them in opposite directions, pull them down. This is kind of what we call tunnel laddering a little bit, or tunnel macrame, right? Because we put the threads through the tunnel of the bead hole. Then I'm going to macrame stitch this closed to tighten it. And you want it to sit nicely, so I'm going to take a moment and make sure this is sitting correctly and tighten this one just below it. There we go. That's looking good. Okay, and then let me do this last one for the tunnel. So I go up here. Where did that bead go? It really disappeared. There it is. So there's that one, and then I go in the opposite way. I see that there's some questions that I'm going to get to in just a second, so bear with me for just a moment, and then I'll answer those, because out of the corner of my eye, they look like good questions, so bear with me here just a moment. So I'll pull that through. There it is, back in the tunnel. Do a stitch underneath, and then I'll show you the side view of this too. I keep doing my macrame stitch from the left. It doesn't really matter because the beads are on it, so it doesn't matter if you start after you've put the bead on in the tunnel. If it starts on the left or the right, doesn't matter. But now, since that one was on the left, I'm going to go here to the right. And I'll just finish this up with just a couple of macrame stitches. Here and here. And I guess I could have started it up just a little bit higher, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to go there. I think I'll be able to get two more. One, I said, and there we go, and two. So now I think what I'll do, and I didn't insert the needle or anything beforehand, but I need to figure out what I'm going to do with these tails. So let's look at it, okay? Here's the side view. So see how they're sitting up there. Here's the back view where I did that macrame stitch. So everything looks good there. Everything looks clean. And here's the top view. So it makes it look like there's almost a little jewel here, right? A little bit of a raised jewel on this piece, which I think looks really pretty, right? I think it looks nice. So I'm going to turn this around and let me see if I can stitch these threads up the center. So I'm going to get that big eye needle, and remember with the big eye needle, I was having a little bit of an issue with it, and so on Wednesdays, I think it was on Wednesday's broadcast, when Mel had that question about using the thread as the pull, to pull it up. So you macrame that loop of thread down there like it's just like a little needle, and then you put them through and pull them up. But this one, I'm going to see if I can go under. There's a lot of heavy sigh on my part here. There's a lot of business to go under here. So, and this thread is kind of thick. And had I been thinking, but I think I got this under. Okay, see how it looks right there? That's not too bad. Let me see if I can get this through. Okay, so I'm just going to slide it up. Of course, what did I do? I put lotion on right before the broadcast, so that needle is too slippery. But let me get my plier, and there we go. Ta-da! That one's through. Let's do the other side. That looks good. I'm going to cut this away because I don't, I just want it out of my way. And I guess I'll thread burn it because I can. There we go. And then let me get the needle off of it and put it through the other way. Okay. And Shirley says, what a lovely statement point for this. Thanks, Shirley. I thought so too. I thought it was like a nice little like rest for your eye, right? So it just made kind of a little special spot in the piece. So I'm gonna, again, I'm working on the back. Let me see if I can, if I got the needle up once, I can get it up again. And it looks like I'm going underneath that purple, the lighter purple, the geisha colored Chinese knotting cord. And then, there we go. And then the what color? Boysenberry is the other color I used. So let's bring it under. You could just glue it, right? And I have been gluing on this piece. It's been fine. But I thought I'd do the pull through on this one just for fun. So there it goes. Goes underneath nicely there. And let's thread burn that away if I can see it. There we go. And if there's a little bit of that Chinese knotting cord left, I'll just turn on my thread burner and tap it down so the tail is gone. Being very careful not to burn anything else. And then what I've got here is this little spot that's ready to go. So let's see where we are with this wrap, shall we? I think I've got like maybe 2 more sections to do of this 5 wrap. I still have the 4mm fire polish that I want to utilize in it, and I still have the bugles from the mix that I want to utilize in it. So here's this. I'm going to wrap, and it's always a good time to try on your wrap. And since this is kind of a Liz homage, it'll be, you know, I want it to be pretty opulent. So I'm at 4 wraps right now. It looks like 4 wraps here. And I've used that 1.0, right? The thinner leather. So I think if I do 1 more, and then maybe I'll do 2 more. I might even do 3. I've got plenty of cord. And I think the more that I do, I think the better that this will look. So it's going to continue to evolve. Okay. But it's working. But I like these little kind of special areas that I put there, that little kind of stand-up piece. So I might actually do that again. I can come back and I can put it like over here, and I could even put one over here. It might add, like, I don't know, a little bit of interest and make it a little bit different. So we'll see. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside. We'll revisit this again, because I know that so many of you are making this wrap. You're like, Kate, how should I finish it? Well, you know, you decide what you like. You know how to ladder, you know, choose a design. We've got so many designs in our 5 wrap, our 5 stitch rather project. So there's lots to choose from, but I'll have more for you. I'll give you another another peek on this next week. And Sheila asked, am I planning to use chain? I'm not, I don't think, but I do have chain here from this one that I made. Let me just show you this here real quick. Chain would look good laddering with the wheat chain. This is one that I did a while back, and you can see here how I have the bugles there. So I'm going to do a section like those bugles. I think will look really nice. And then I'm going to do another section using the 4mm fire polish. But here's that wheat chain that's been laddered in, and I really, I love how this looks, right? I love how the wheat chain looks laddered. So if you have some and you want to toss that in, I think it would look great. So anyway, that's that. So, when you make a wrap bracelet, it's kind of like a road trip, right? You get in the car, and at least it's like the road trips that my mom and I would like to do, right? You get in the car and you're like, all right, let's start driving. Kind of the same thing with this, what you've got here. You just get in the car and you start driving. This is one, I think maybe that I did with the monthly mix from a while back, maybe the Roaring 20s mix or something. This is something that I did, but I want to show you here. This is also a nice thing to do, and I might do this to this as well. See how I did there's a 6/0, though I don't have any 6/0s in this mix, but I do have the 4mm fire polish. So you can see I did the 4mm fire polish. So I did the 8/0 here, a few macrame stitches, and 8/0, the 6/0, then the 8/0, and it came back down. This has kind of a floral look to it, or a picot look, that I think would be right at home with this design. So this is good. This is really, I think it's good. And then I did kind of this checkerboard design. This one again also has chain. So there's a lot happening here. So I saw Cindy Brooke just jumped on, and she said, did I ever go over the tools? And no, so you're just in time, Cindy. Yeah, and my mom said, and that road trip, where did we end up? In Mexico. It is true. It is true. So don't be afraid of the journey. Embrace the journey. You gotta do it. So let's look at the tools. Okay. So we just launched these guys today. They're called the Micro Grip pliers. And, we're lucky enough that some of our vendors, when they get new stuff in, they send them out to us to try them out, right? Because I like to try them, right? I like to try things out. I like to make sure that they're up to snuff, right? Janice and I have always felt that way about whatever it is that we carry. Okay, so I got these a while back, and I've been playing with them. You've seen them on my table for a while. And I gave them the thumbs up. Now, they're not a super high quality plier. The quality is great, but they're not like a made in USA Xuron tool. Okay, right? So, but they're great. They're a really good price point. And what I like is I like the size. And so let's look at them. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to put them through their paces so you guys can kind of see how these work. Okay, so we've got 5 tools in this collection. And my hand is kind of small-ish, right? So I like a smaller plier. And this plier fits really well in my hand. And I don't have to exert a lot of pressure on this tool to open it or close it or anything like that. I'm looking for my ruler. Here's a ruler, at least, right? And so you can see here it's about 5 inches long here. And so my hand's about 6 inches long, maybe just a little bit more, 6.5 inches from the tip of my finger down to the bottom of my palm. So they fit really nicely. And you can see that the handle's kind of slim up here, so it's a good place for my thumb to sit, because when I'm opening and closing a plier, okay, like this, I put the pressure here on my thumb, And then I work this, opening and closing the tool with my fingers, and then it rests against the heel of my my thumb over here. So this can get fatigued, especially if you have a really skinny handle on this. But these are pretty nice, so they feel pretty comfortable. And so we decided to get them, I was trying to decide, well, which ones do we carry? And we're like, you know what, we're just going to carry them all. So let me start with the cutter, because that's what everybody wants to know about, right? Now, this cutter, again, it's not like a Zuron cutter, like the maxi shear cutter, right? That really, cuts forever. Well, not forever, but it's a US, I've got one right here. It's a US made tool. You can see that, it's still, the heads are holding up really well. I use this to cut 12 gauge wire and thinner, right? I really like these Zurons. This, however, is a smaller tool, okay? The cutter is thinner, right? And the heads are super fine. So I've got some 24 and 26 gauge that I'm going to be wire wrapping with here in a second. This is perfect for that. All of those soft wires, okay? Not for memory wire, not for 18 gauge wire, not for your heavier gauged wires, okay? But with fine wire wraps, and you're going to see, because I'm going to wire wrap with this skinny wire here, you're going to like that these tips are so tapered. Now we've also got then the regular plier family here. We've got the round nose, and I want to show you these round nose tips. They're super small, and they're round, nice and round up to about right here, and then they flatten out a little bit here, which is okay. They're around to about there, okay? And this will give you super small, fine loops, and I'm going to show you this, okay? Cindy's asking, she says she's got arthritis in her right thumb joint, and she wonders how they'd feel in there. Since it's wide, Cindy, and my hands don't work like they used to, right? They're not very expensive pliers, so, you can try it out. If you don't love it, you can always send it back, right? As long as you've got the original packaging ready to go. But I like these, and I like also because they're long and tapered, okay? And they're light, they're not super heavy, so they're not going to fatigue my hand. Then we have the chain nose pliers. We have the regular chain, which also super tapered, right? Super nice and flat, no serrations in there, really nice and clean and flat. We've got the bent chain that's just a slight bend. Also, the tips are fine, not so fine that they're going to bend and curve or whatever, but see how they close nicely together. That's something that I was looking for. How do they grip? How do they close? They close nicely. They're even. One tip isn't longer than the other, right? Nice and closed. Then this is a tool that I love, and I use it a lot for wire wrapping. I have one, an old school one that I probably had for almost 30 years. It's a Lindstrom plier, right? And it's the wide flat nose. Well, this wide flat nose is also, it's really nice. See how, again, I close it, no gap in between. The head is nice and, it doesn't taper weird on one side or weird on the other. They close and the tips are even. So the quality on these, just by the manufacturing standards, are good. It looks like the handles are really on there tight. They have this nice little spring that you could take off if you don't like the spring on your pliers, but I actually do. Some metal workers, old school metal workers, don't like a spring on theirs, but I'm a fan of a spring, okay? Also, this joint right here goes through the pliers and is riveted on nice and tightly with this little collar, so I think everything is going to work as it should. Now, Christine Whitney is asking on the cutters, will they cut through soft flex? They will. The thing about cutting soft flex with any cutter is that the soft flex is steel, right? It's a wire, it's a steel, I've got one right here. It's a twisted steel strand underneath this flexible nylon coating. And so I can come in and I can cut, and if I'm cutting it, maybe I'll cut kind of closer to the back. It cuts nice and evenly across, but repeated use of these on a steel piece of soft flex is going to wear them down. So I use for those, for soft flex, I'll use my Xuron, right? But once in a while, cutting of a strand of soft flex on these isn't going to kill them, right? But it will, the steel, because it's not soft wire, but it's so thin that it'll be okay once in a while. Okay, but it doesn't, you can see, it didn't mark the head of the tool or anything like that. The millimeter, Christine's also asking on the flat nose, how many millimeters wide? You know, I don't have my gauge here. I think I've got like 5 of them on my desk. Oh, no, it's right here. Here it is. I do have it. I did bring it in. So I was changing the batteries on all of them. So, so here we go. I'm going to just, at the very tip, whoops, this is inches. Let's get it to millimeters. It's almost 3 millimeters. Can you see that? On the heads of the pliers, this is like a 1 millimeter on that round nose. And the tips on this chain nose here, about 1.3. So they're real tapered. But see, they have some girth behind them, right? They have some metal behind them. So they shouldn't, if you don't use them on heavier wires, right? They won't, you know, they won't bend or whatever. Okay, so you're in good shape there. But let me show you how I would, how I'd wire wrap with these. And Cindy, I thank you for your comment here. And it's something, I knew that Xuron has a really good plier for soft flex. I'm going to look into that plier because it would be nice to specifically have a cutter for that. So thank you for that. Janice, make a note, Xuron number 410, and we'll look at it. Okay, because I love our soft flex, but it really, you know, it's a cutter duller, right, if you're not careful. So I've got some small little beauties here that I'm going to wire wrap. I'm going to have to get up nice, close, and personal with these little tiny stones. Okay, and I know that we don't have these tiny stones in stock yet. You just cool your jets on these and watch your newsletters next week. Let me get a few of these out. Let me measure this for you so you know how tiny I'm wire wrapping. Hole to hole, these little beauties are about 2 millimeters. Okay, and I brought some fine gauge wire to work with. I've got some 24 gauge, which fits beautifully, and some 26 gauge, which should also fit beautifully. Now, back in the day, yeah, I did a lot of wire wrapping of tiny stones because I loved like the chandelier earring, right, that had the cascading of beautiful tiny stones. We carry some really beautiful strands of the very small, you know, semi-precious rondelles. They're all beautiful. So I'm going to come in and we'll wire wrap one of these. I'm going to put one of these nice little blue quartz on there, right? Small. And I'm just going to slide it on. What's this on? This is on 26 gauge. I'm going to move those over because I'll knock them down. So now I'm just working off the spool here. Okay. So I'm going to just do a wire wrap, and I'm going to do it kind of quickly, but I'll talk you through it as I'm doing it. So I'm going to get my, whoops, that's my round nose. They're so fine, I can't tell. Here's my chain nose, and I'm going to bend. That's maybe a little less than an inch, right? Because I'm going fine here. So I'm going to bend at a right angle. And we have a skill builder on how to wire wrap or how to do this wire wrap here. It's so old that it has my hands. It's actually the wire wrap guide that I did for the store. Okay, so I've had it, so it's been up there forever, even during my absence from bead shop, right? So I'm coming in right here at the tip of these round nose pliers, and can you see how I'm at this angle, at that right angle there? Okay, I want a really small loop. So I'm going to bring it right around the head of that tool. Now I'm going to open it, flip that tool around, close it, and bring this wire underneath. There we go. And you can tell you can't tell, but I'll tell you, right? Is that I don't have to grip this plier so tightly, right? It's gripping really nicely up there. So now I'm going to wire wrap it. Whoops, I'm going to turn this around. Bring this back there. There you go. I'm trying to give you guys a good top view so you can see what I'm doing. I think you can see this here. So now, stay in there. This comes off at that right angle. I think I'm going to choose the bent chain because that's what I like to wire wrap with. Okay, so I'm going to come around and I'm going to bring this wire around. Sorry, it's kind of out of my focal range. Sorry, I can't see it as well. Bring it around. Now, if your wire is kind of moving around a little bit like this, right? I can come in. This is the other thing I use this wide flat nose for. See how I've just come in, I've stabilized that loop. Especially with this thin wire, sometimes your pliers don't want to grip it. And see how I'm up really tight there as I'm wire wrapping with this bent chain nose. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to get the tip of that wire cutter and I'm going to wedge it right in there, being very careful about where my wire is going to fly. It flew in a direction that I wasn't anticipating, but I'm okay. And then that little tip, it's so hard to see, but it's right there. I'm just going to come in and I'm going to push it right down and underneath the wrap so I don't have any burr that's sticking out there. Then I'll come in and I'll straighten this up. Now, you guys, that is the smallest, most perfect wire wrap ever, right? Now remember, I've had that bead on here. I'm working off my wire spool. So now the trick here, kids, is when you're doing wire wraps like this, that this section here, this length here, I want to replicate that on this side so that I'll have enough for 3 wraps and 3 wraps and it'll look super symmetrical. Okay? So what I'll do is I'm going to come in with my fine chain nose and I'm going to kind of lay it over the wrap to see about where I want to grab it. So I look there and I go, yeah, that looks like it's about the same. And I'll bend. And I want to be consistent with my loops. So actually I want to bend it so that my loops will both be facing the same way. Now it's not critical, but for wire wraps that are this tiny, like so, I want to be consistent. So I either have wraps that are going, one is facing me and one's to the side, or they're both facing one direction. Okay, you don't want them so that they're kind of off kilter, because then whatever it is you're wire wrapping will kind of kink up and kind of grab onto itself. So I'm going to guesstimate about how much wire I need to make the loop and how much I need to wrap. So I'm just going to come in and clip. Okay. Because this spool of wire here is starting to bug me. So now let me get that round nose. And remember, I did it just at the tip. So let me get this right here. So see how the tips of my tool are right up against that bend. I'll hold it this way. Right at the same circumference. And if you don't remember where you put it in the tool this last time for the first loop, you can kind of do that same thing. Go, okay, that's about where I need to do it. Okay. So here's this. Up and over at about that same point, which is about right there. Down and underneath. There we go. So those two loops, you can even check it. And if your loop is a little too big, though we're working so tiny, you know, for God's sakes, just, it's okay. But here we go. And now I'm going to wrap it. So I can continue. I can hold this in my round nose to keep it round. I can come in with this flat nose. This is the one that I like for holding that loop because, see, it really just grips it right there. That loop isn't going to move, and it's going to keep staying nice and round. Now I'm going to kind of tilt my wire wrap down, and I'm going to go once, twice, 3 times around, and I'm going to come in with my wire cutter, wedge those tips right up. See how tight that is? Right up against that wire wrap, and clip. I'll make sure I'm grabbing it at the right place and I'm not nicking the loop because I've done that before. And now let me get that bent chain, and I can see it. It's hard for you to see, but I can see that little piece of wire that's left from where I cut it. I just push it in with the tips of my tool. And this, my dears, is the smallest of wire wraps ready to go. Okay, tiny, tiny, tiny. Okay, so the next one, I'm going to go a little faster, and I'm going to just connect the two so you can see two together. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to bend at a right angle. I'm going to wire wrap at Kate speed. That's a round nose. They're so fine I can't tell which is the flat and which is the round. Here we go, up and over, down and under. Whoops, sorry, I'm not in the shot. Using that bent chain to wire wrap 3 times. There we go. Flatten that loop out, make sure everything's straight. Cut with that cutter. Push that little end in, though that cutter gets super close. Put on another micro-faceted quartz. Get my straight chain nose, though I could have done it with my bent because I kind of saw where that was going, so it was okay. So now I'm going to make my loop up and over, down and under. Okay. And I'm going to put it through. I'm going to hold. So now I can't hold it with that super wide plier, but see how I can hold it with that nice thin chain nose? And you can see it's perfectly done there. Let me get in there and clip. Let me make sure I'm not clipping. There we go. I'm not clipping the loop like I do sometimes when they're super fine. Get that in there. Even that straight chain will come in and push that down. So now I've got 2. Look at that. I think they're good, right? So now, and it says some of you, awesome, that you guys are so into them. So I wanted to make sure, you guys, that you saw this offer. We have a great offer today. And if you've ordered them during the show and you're like, wait, I didn't get the coupon code, and it's good for today only. It's the 10th of September here. So I want to put this up. I should have done it, I guess, before I did the demo. But you can always email Drea if you didn't put in your coupon code pliers at checkout. Because today, as an introductory offer, and they're going fast, so we will restock if we run out, which I know we will. We ordered a bunch of them, but you guys loved them. So there's a great deal. If you buy all 5 of the pliers and you've got them in your cart and you use coupon code pliers at checkout, you'll get one of those free. So you buy 5 and you get one of the tools free. Okay, so use coupon code pliers at checkout. And if you were super excited during the broadcast and you grabbed them, and you didn't use that pliers code, just email us at info@beadshop.com and we'll take care of it. But again, if you're not watching this live and you're watching this after the 10th, I'm sorry that offer is no longer valid. But make sure that you sign up for our newsletter because we have other really great things coming down the pike, including what's in this dish. And I will neither confirm or deny what that's all about. Okay. So let's see what we've got here. Okay. So good. And it's okay. So Ms. Ma'am, you didn't get the coupon code. Don't worry. Just email Drea, info@beadshop, and Drea will take care of it for you. Okay. So don't worry. We'll make that happen. So I saw as soon as you said I ordered them, I'm all, oh my gosh, I didn't show the code yet. So you're all good. Okay, and Drea will take care of that. So no worries. All right. So that is. Let me get me up here. There we go. So that's really it for today's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed learning more about the wrap and learning more about these pliers. I'm so glad that you guys like them as well. So I'm pretty pleased with them, and so I'd like to know what you guys think. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about next week. We have all kinds of stuff happening next week because it is my birthday week next week. So we have some fun things planned for that. So make sure and open your newsletters, see what's going on, and we're going to have some fun next week, including another new product drop, a really epic necklace on Wednesday's show, all of that. I also wanted to mention, of course, today is the 10th of September, and here in the U.S., September 11th was it was a big day in our history, right? And we're not really celebrating because we're commemorating, right? The 20th anniversary of the attacks that occurred on September 11th of 2001. And I was thinking about it, and I actually had dinner with a friend last night, and we were kind of talking about that, and we were talking about how kind of the quiet that was around that date, right, when planes weren't, flying and stuff like that. And kind of the early days of our pandemic kind of had that same kind of feeling to it, right? And so I just wanted to tell you just a quick little story, and it's kind of my remembrance of that day. We had the bead shop. The bead shop was a brick and mortar then in Palo Alto. And early morning, September 11th happened out here on the West Coast. It was really early. East Coast, was start of business day. And the events transpired. And first thing I did was I called Janice and I said, what are we going to do? and she said, I'm going to go down to the store and we're going to close today. Don't come in. Stay home. So I did. I stayed home, and Janice went down and put a sign up. And then we talked later in the day. We spoke, and we're like, what do we do? Because no one knew what to do then, right? What was going to happen, all of this. So we decided, all right, we're going to open the store the next day on the 12th, right? Maybe no one will come in, but we'll open. And as soon as we opened, people started coming in, and they just wanted some community. They wanted to make something. They just wanted to be together, right? And so it kind of brought back thoughts of what's going on now with the pandemic, and about how we're still kind of in the throes of this. We haven't totally shaken it, right? We're still trying to make sense of what's going on with this pandemic, and we can't, be as free and easy as we'd really like to. So all of this to say that creativity and focusing your creative energy, I think it really helps. Like it helped on September 11th and thereafter of 2001. Like it helped in March of 2020 and beyond to this day, right? So anyway, that's just my little speech, I guess, that says, we're very thankful for you. We're very thankful for this creative community. We're thinking about those that we've lost on that monumental day 20 years ago. And we're thinking of the people that we've lost over this past year and a half. So that's what I've got. But anyway, pardon me, as I get a little choked up. Have a fantastic weekend. I'm going to go center myself and stay creative, everybody, and I will see you next week. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.